At exactly 7:30 local time, something detonates above the roof of the world. Within seconds, the snow-covered peak is gone. And 80,000 people across Nepal, India, and Tibet feel the sky catch fire. What if a nuclear bomb exploded on Mount Everest? This isn't science fiction. It's physics. And today, we're exploring the devastating chain reaction that would unfold if humanity's most destructive weapon met Earth's highest point. The weapon, a B-83 nuclear bomb, the most powerful in the current US arsenal with a yield of approximately 1.2 megatons. Deployed from a stealth bomber or high-altitude drone, detonating 500 meters above Everest's summit for maximum effect. The immediate result? A fireball over 2.5 kilometers wide, vaporizing the peak instantly and flattening everything within 6 to 8 kilometers. But the true horror is just beginning. What happens next will transform the Himalayas forever. Explosion mechanics. What happens step by step? 1 second. The fireball expands rapidly, incinerating the Everest summit at 8,848 meters. Snow, ice, and rock don't melt. They vaporize instantly, turning directly from solid to gas at temperatures reaching millions of degrees. To 5 seconds. The shockwave travels downwards and outward, compressing the surrounding air into a sonic boom heard across the Himalayas. Simultaneously, a thermal pulse, a wave of pure heat, ignites anything flammable up to 10 to 15 kilometers away on clear slopes. Tents, trees, even clothing on exposed climbers burst into flame instantly. 5 to 20 seconds. The air blast impact now reaches further down the mountain. Within 4 kilometers, including Everest Base Camp and South Col, nothing survives. The overpressure is so extreme that human bodies are simply crushed before they can burn. Within 8 kilometers, severe overpressure flattens everything not made of solid rock. Trees snap like toothpicks. Tents and equipment become deadly projectiles, and communication posts crumple like aluminum foil. But what happens next makes this initial destruction look minor. The mountain itself is about to fight back. Immediate environmental impact. The entire summit is gone. Not damaged, gone. A crater is carved into the top 200 to 300 meters of the mountain, forever changing Earth's highest point. K2 in Pakistan is now the world's tallest mountain. The Khumbu Glacier, Everest's massive river of ice, receives the heat blast like a blowtorch on butter. Millions of tons of ice melt within minutes, creating a wall of water that surges down valleys below. Think that's devastating? What happens next multiplies the horror tenfold. Avalanches trigger across multiple ridges as the shockwave destabilizes snowpacks. These aren't normal avalanches. They're hypersonic waves of debris moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour, reaching settlements like Tengbuche and Namche Bazaar within minutes. Meanwhile, high above, the electromagnetic pulse from the detonation silently strikes. All radios, aircraft guidance systems, and satellites over the region suddenly go dark. Communication is impossible. Rescue efforts are blind. How the bomb gets there. How could this actually happen? The most plausible scenario: a stealth bomber or drone-launched bomb flying through the disputed airspace between China and India, a region already characterized by military tensions. Alternatively, a submarine-launched ballistic missile fired from the Bay of Bengal or Indian Ocean could reach Everest in under 15 minutes. Too fast for effective countermeasures. But why target Everest? 2 possibilities stand out. First, a symbolic warning strike. Destroying the world's tallest mountain demonstrates nuclear capability without causing immediate urban casualties. A horrifying calling card. Second, as a shock test site in a hypothetical conflict involving India, China, and foreign powers, using the mountain's remote location to demonstrate resolve while minimizing immediate human cost. If you're finding this scenario disturbing yet fascinating, now would be a great time to hit that subscribe button. We're about to explore what happens to survivors in the surrounding villages and the global consequences that would unfold within hours. How realistic is this scenario? Let's be clear. No nation has Everest on a target list today. But is this scenario completely implausible? Not entirely. Mount Everest sits on a highly sensitive geopolitical border where China, Nepal, and India converge. This isn't just any mountain range. It's a militarized zone where border skirmishes have occurred for decades. Both India and China consider the region militarily strategic, with troop deployments, mountain warfare training, and surveillance infrastructure throughout the Himalayas. In a scenario where tensions escalate, perhaps over Tibet, water rights disputes, or border conflicts, a non-urban nuclear detonation could serve as a psychological escalation without the immediate casualties of striking a city. What would you do if you saw this unfold? Let us know in the comments what you think would happen to international relations if Everest were destroyed. If you were there, POV moments. Base camp, 5,364 meters. You're enjoying your morning tea. The summit expedition begins tomorrow. Suddenly, a flash brighter than the sun reflects off the ice. A wave of heat, impossible heat, melts everything around you. Your last thought is confusion before your body vaporizes. All of this happens in less than 2 seconds. Namche Bazaar, 11.5 kilometers away. You're shopping in the market when a blinding light catches your attention. Before you can process what you're seeing, windows shatter around you. The temperature spikes as if standing in front of an open furnace. Your phone goes dark. The ground shakes violently. Then, impossibly, ash begins to fall from the sky. Kathmandu, 160 kilometers away. You're stuck in morning traffic when the northern sky ripples with strange light. 8 minutes later, a distant boom rolls across the city like thunder. Every phone simultaneously buzzes with emergency alerts. Looking up, you see a mushroom cloud on the horizon. Then, panic erupts as everyone realizes what's happened. These first-hand experiences would be just the beginning. The true horror unfolds in the hours and days that follow, as we're about to see. Geopolitical chain reaction. Within 90 seconds of detonation, India, China, and US NORAD go into high alert status. Strategic forces are activated worldwide before anyone even knows who's responsible. Military satellites confirm what everyone fears. The heat signature matches a nuclear detonation. This was no natural disaster or conventional explosion. The characteristic double flash signature is unmistakable. NATO convenes an emergency session, but Article 5, the Collective Defense Clause, isn't triggered unless a member nation was attacked. Still, the alliance moves to DEFCON 3 as a precaution. Russia and China respond immediately with air patrols near their borders, uncertain if this is the beginning of a larger attack. Fighter jets scramble in a defensive posture that itself risks misinterpretation. Within the hour, the UN Security Council convenes an emergency meeting. For the first time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, the world stands on the precipice of potential nuclear escalation. Days after. Fallout behavior at Everest's altitude is terrifyingly unpredictable. The high-altitude jet stream captures radioactive particles, carrying them toward eastern China, Southeast Asia, and potentially across the Pacific. The consequences are far worse than most nuclear scenarios because of one factor: water. Radiation rains out on glaciers that feed the major river systems of Asia, contaminating water sources for hundreds of millions of people downstream. Kathmandu Airport shuts down immediately as ash and potential radiation make flights dangerous. The primary evacuation route for thousands of tourists and trekkers vanishes. Tourism, the economic lifeblood of Nepal, collapses overnight. Sherpa communities face mass displacement, losing both their homeland and livelihood simultaneously. Meanwhile, the environmental damage accelerates. Crops and yaks exposed to fallout become vectors for long-term bioaccumulation of radioactive isotopes. The food chain itself becomes a delivery system for radiation. But perhaps most insidiously, Himalayan ice melt, already a climate change concern, accelerates dramatically as radioactive dust darkens snow albedo, absorbing more sunlight and hastening glacial retreat. The world would never be the same. But could this nightmare scenario actually be triggered? What would prevent such a catastrophe from happening? Minute-by-minute breakdown. The flash comes first, a blinding light brighter than 1,000 suns. Within microseconds, a fireball forms, expanding to over 2 kilometers wide. The top 200 meters of Everest's peak simply ceases to exist, vaporized into plasma at temperatures exceeding 10 million degrees. Number 10 to 30 seconds. The shockwave, traveling at supersonic speed, slams into Everest's southern slope. Base camp becomes a memory. The South Col, Camp 2, Camp 3, obliterated. Anyone within 8 kilometers experiences overpressure equivalent to being hit by a speeding train. 30 to 90 seconds. A cascade of secondary disasters begins. The mountain's entire snow load converts to a hypersonic avalanche. All communications across the region go silent as the EMP fries electronics. The blast wave continues outward, shattering windows in villages 30 kilometers away. 2 to 5 minutes. Detection systems worldwide confirm a nuclear detonation. The distinctive mushroom cloud rises 20 kilometers into the stratosphere, visible from hundreds of kilometers away. Military units in India, China, and Nepal mobilize in confusion, unsure if this is the first strike of a larger attack. 10+ minutes. Global news networks break coverage. Stock markets plunge worldwide. Political leaders rush to secure locations. The international hotlines between nuclear powers light up as frantic calls attempt to prevent misunderstandings that could lead to further escalation. Every minute that passes reshapes our world, and we haven't even addressed the long-term consequences yet. What would you do? Do you run? Hide in a crevasse? Try to text your family one last message? What would you do in those crucial first minutes? Or imagine this. You're sitting in a Kathmandu cafe, 160 kilometers away. The ground suddenly shakes. People look confused. Was it an earthquake? But something feels different. The news hasn't caught up yet. Your phone still works. Do you check Twitter for information? Call loved ones? Or try to flee the city before everyone else realizes what happened? Let us know in the comments what your survival strategy would be. The choices you make in those first minutes could determine whether you live or die. The truly terrifying part. This scenario isn't as impossible as you might hope. The mechanisms that prevent nuclear weapons use are more fragile than most people realize. Realistic survival chances. Let's be brutally honest about survival odds in this scenario. Within 2 kilometers of the blast, total vaporization. 0 survival chance. The temperatures exceed those on the surface of the sun. Bodies don't burn, they simply cease to exist on a molecular level. Within 5 kilometers, including base camp and high camps, your only chance is being behind multiple thick rock walls or deep inside caves. Even then, the odds are vanishingly small as the pressure wave can collapse cave entrances and cause internal injuries even through solid rock. Within 10 to 15 kilometers, places like Gorakshep and lower valleys. Inside a sealed stone lodge? Maybe. And that's a big maybe, depending on line of sight to the blast and building orientation. In a tent or open trail, burns would be instantly lethal, or lung damage from the pressure wave would kill you within hours. In Kathmandu, 160 kilometers away, no direct physical damage, but three major threats emerge: electromagnetic pulse effects shutting down critical infrastructure, mass panic as information spreads, and potential fallout risk depending on wind patterns in the following days. Global military and political response. China deploys fighter jets to the region within 15 minutes of confirmation. Military bases in Tibet go to highest alert status as commanders attempt to determine if this was an attack on Chinese territory. India considers it a cross-border threat, potentially triggering the world's most dangerous nuclear flashpoint. Troops mobilize near Sikkim as the government weighs whether this was the first strike in a larger attack. US satellites confirm the unique double-flash signature of a nuclear detonation within minutes. The president is evacuated to a secure location as Stratcom attempts to identify the weapon signature and origin. The United Nations issues an unprecedented warning of potential eco-genocide as rivers that feed 40% of Asia's population risk radioactive contamination. Emergency sessions convene as humanitarian agencies mobilize. Within days, major anti-nuclear protests erupt worldwide, with millions taking to streets in capitals across every continent. The site of Earth's tallest peak destroyed becomes a rallying symbol for nuclear disarmament. The tallest point on Earth erased in seconds. But this isn't just a simulation. Everest feeds the rivers that feed Asia. If this ever happened, your water, your air, your future could be at stake. What if it wasn't Everest, but your city? The physics wouldn't change, only the body count would. If you want to understand more about how fragile our world really is, subscribe now for our next scenario. We're exploring the boundaries between the possible and the unthinkable. Let us know in the comments where you'd want to be if this ever happened, and what you think is our best hope for ensuring it never does.